Welcome to the Spinner Rack. This is the Patreon exclusive comic book podcast for Secret Friends Unite. We do this every 2 weeks. We cover a event, a character, or a series. And this time we're talking about All-Star Superman. This book came out in the early 2000s, 2005, so it's roughly 20 years now. And I thought this was an excellent book to get into because the James Gunn Superman movie said it will be taking elements of this comic and putting them into the movie. So with that, I'm here with Charlie, and we're going to start talking about this amazing book. But first, thanks to all our amazing Patreons who make the show happen. We got Derek, we got Francie, we got the XCP, Charlie's Uncle Tim, Johnson Dorf, Phoenix Sisters Entertainment, Brandon Myers, Corey in HD, Matthew Keel, Kurt Krug, Tanya Lee, and Sean Stella, and Henry Nice. Thank you all.
Woo! You missed. I was flying like Superman to get a start.
Oh yeah, there you go. You'll believe a man can fly and read a comic.
But just to be noted, again, if you're listening to this, we're recording this in early spring of 2025, and the Superman movie comes out in the summertime. So you might be listening to this a year from now, and you're like, what are these guys doing? But that's it. But like you said, this is the ramp up to talking about All-Star Superman. This did come out in, as you said, November of 2005. Grant Morrison, the famous, now wasn't he that guy who did he go nuts, or is that Frank Miller?
No, you're thinking of Alan Moore.
Oh.
He didn't go nuts, but he looks a little creepy with his long beard.
I'm definitely thinking of another guy. Like I saw a clip recently where he was at a Comic-Con and he was just really going off the rails. He was talking. I was watching that video about the rise and fall of Wizard World and everything, and he was at one of those and he was talking trash. So I don't know.
Frank Miller. Okay, Frank Miller's gotten really feeblized the last couple of years. He's a New Yorker dude. He's different. I don't know if anything's going on with him. But yeah.
Who's to say? But at any rate, Grant Morrison did write this and worked with artist Frank Quietly. The acclaimed team behind JLA Earth 2, which I have not read, are at it once again, this time to strip down, not literally, the Man of Steel and to his timeless essential elements. The series touches on all the classic aspects of the Superman mythology, starting with the daring rescue of a doomed group of helionauts. Is that like a self-proclaimed Huguenot? Like Peter Griffin?
I don't know what that means. I will look it up.
On the surface of the sun, the massive amounts of solar radiation affect Superman in a way no one could possibly anticipate, except Nicholas Hoult, or not Kevin Spacey, or the late, great Gene Wilder. We're talking about Lex Luthor. So, yeah, that's what really drives this story. We get things going with Superman going up to do one of his regular, hey, I'm rescuing a group of people in a situation that only I can rescue them in. And it was kind of calculated, wasn't it? The whole thing was kind of put together by Lex Luthor, that the closer he got to the sun to perform this rescue, he overloaded. Because by the time he gets back, he's talking to his scientist pals, and they're like, yeah, this is going to give you the Superman version of cancer. It's going to kill you. But they're kind of vague about it. It's not like, well, you'll start to get sick, because for the 6 issues that we read, and again, this is a 12-issue series, so it's spanned out over a year. But we only read half of it because, as we were talking about the pre-roll, it's the army of content. We get in what we can. So 6 issues is usually what we cover.
Well, I think what I propose, Charlie, we read the second half and do it for the next episode. So we can break it into.
There you go. Very good. So based on that, we'll kind of keep the spoilers a little lighter, but super cool way to start the story. Now, that was in issue 1, and then obviously it kind of sets the tone for the series, but super cool way to start it. And I think kind of an original concept. Again, I'm not a dyed-in-the-wool Superman reader. I'm a fan like anybody else on Earth. But I never thought, hey, what's something that, it's always, well, Kryptonite's his only vulnerability. Otherwise, he can juggle elephants, and he can, lift one of the Great Pyramid of Giza or whatever. But the sun, the source of his power, if he, essentially goes down and starts drinking it with the straw, which is kind of what it made it sound like. It's, you can overcharge a battery. I don't know. Have you ever overcharged a battery and had it explode on you? I don't think that's a thing.
Oh, you definitely can. Like a lot of cell phones, like now the battery, it can actually start expanding, and the phone will get really. So you have to be very careful. That's why, like they lithium-ion batteries, they have to actually put warnings on packages and things that even have little batteries, because if they fly in an airplane, the pressure do that. So they're very dangerous, and you have to be very careful with the disposal.
Right.
Yes.
So
Superman absorbing 3x his normal solar energy. Basically, the sun is overpowering his cells, and it's essentially turning into cancer for him, which is different. And that's something he's never had to deal with. He's dealing with, and that's what the series is all about, is his mortality and what he will do with the time left. And that's kind of when, and every book in this series is essentially a different aspect of his life and how he will deal with it, and maybe a look back, a part of his life. And that's what makes this series so cool, is because you do get elements of Superman that you probably have not seen written this way before, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, it's the Superman equivalent of the Tim McGraw song "Live Like You Were Dying." That's what it is. Think about it. Live like you were dying, Superman.
That's exactly what I didn't think of.
Yeah, it just came to me.
At the same time, there was another book called All-Star Batman and Robin that came out at the same time. I believe it was Jim Lee, and it was, I think it might have been Frank Miller. That title was not as well received as this one was. This one won an Eisner. This book won an Eisner. It was one of the best books of the year. And the way this works, so we've got issue 1, which is essentially the setup for it. Basically, Lex Luthor basically set in a human that became almost a bomb, an exploding bomb that expanded when it got closer to the sun. Superman had to save the crew, and we do that. Then we get into issue 2, which is a story about Superman and Lois's relationship, which I thought was very touching, heartwarming. And this is like I would say this is more like an Elseworlds, because it is in a time where Lois still doesn't know Clark is Superman, and Clark is now dealing with the time. He's basically saying, well, now or never. I'm passing away. I've got to finally come with her. So this is all about wooing Lois in this issue, and it's all about kind of like convincing Lois that he truly is Superman, and he keeps trying, and she still doesn't want to believe him, which is neat. I really liked it.
And we get an appearance from like 2 dipshits who are like,
well, that's issue 3. So
my bad. Okay, I thought that. Are you sure that was within the Lois arc? I guess I'm not remembering it went on for 2 issues.
Issue 2 was when he was trying to convince her, because in this book, I think they do a really good job of when he is Clark, he's kind of like, he bends his shoulders forward. He's got a gut. He is clumsy, and it's believable. So then Superman finally takes Lois to the Fortress of Solitude, and you find out he changed his big key to just a little key, but it's like
a neutron star.
Tons.
Yeah, it's a neutron star. Yeah, exactly. It seemed like it would be too heavy to even not just sink to the center of the Earth, but you know. Regardless, that's cute. Yeah, does he leave it under a little mat? Maybe bury it in the snow.
Exactly, a very, very light mat. But this is all around. Basically, it's Lois's birthday, and everyone tries to surprise her. So he decides he is going to come up with a perfect birthday gift for her. But along the way, when he's taking her around the Fortress of Solitude, he's like, "Don't go into that room." And he's acting really weird. And then Lois starts thinking, "Wait, am I really safe? Is he going to do something weird to me?" So this really turns into a very weird element where he had mentioned that, there's weapons that are very powerful that could even take me out. There's this kryptonite weapon. So she goes back and grabs it. And then when she thinks, oh my God, he's going to kill me or experiment on me, she fires at him. And then he tells her basically at that point, because of the exposure, I'm no longer can be harmed by kryptonite.
Right.
And then he finally reveals what the birthday gift is. And what is that birthday gift that he gives her, Charlie?
First of all, he gives her kind of a sexy outfit.
Yes.
No, he gives her a super suit, and this was great. He gives her an elixir that gives her his abilities for 24 hours. So they're gonna go and do a bunch of super stuff. So they're flying around. Their big date at the end of it was we have a date at the bottom of the ocean. But yeah, they end up bumping into these two ding dongs, these guys. Now I don't know anything about these characters. They seem very like Silver Age, like 1950s. It was like Atlas and
Yes, rivals to Superman,
yeah,
like
yeah,
like think of like Hercules and Thor. Think of like
yeah,
that rivalry,
yeah.
kind
It
of
was
like
like
that with Samson and
yeah.
Atlas.
It was like Goofus and Gallant, you know what I mean? And so they're like, well, I will arm wrestle you for her affection, and blah, blah, like it was just like, okay. It's like the two chowderheads that you meet down at Cheers or a local neighborhood bar. And so yeah, so that is obviously they don't get any headway, and Lois is kind of like, well, why am I a prize to be one or whatever? So it's very kind of, it seemed very like a very kind of 1950s, like that would be the cover of like World's Finest Comics and from 1958. Like, oh, Superman's girlfriend Lois. Brr, brr, brr. Yeah, so
Exactly. Oh, will Superman be able to fend off Lewis's latest suitors? I mean, it would be exactly that, and they'd show like Superman, like I don't know, like Samson would be like holding his head like this as Superman's trying to get him, and he'd get his arm around Lois.
Yeah,
we've probably read this book already or shown it on cover story.
But I thought that was cute. I think it was kind of a cute throwback. So all right, so that was issue 3. So getting into issue 4, you got the covers in front of you, so you tell me.
Absolutely. So these covers are really good, and they are a good, neat throwback. But this one was all about Jimmy Olsen. So Jimmy Olsen being a part of Superman's, he's Superman's pal, and he has all these weird adventures, and he's slowly become like the most interesting person in the world because he has all these weird adventures. Like he's been transformed, he's done all these things, and he now has like a editorial, or it's like a feature in the Daily Planet where he writes about all his adventures and the things he gets to do. Like,
and so
I get to do this for a day.
And he's famous for it, and so he's world renowned. And his girlfriend, who's much put upon, like, well, you never take me anywhere, but so and so asked me out, and I'm thinking about saying yes because you never take me anywhere. That's Lucy Lane, isn't it? Isn't that Lois's little sister? It's Lucy something.
It's got to be LL, so it's Lucy Longinus, Lucy Latitude. I don't know.
I like Lucy Latitude, who's definitely not a stripper name.
There we go.
So yeah, and then so Jimmy's adventure in this is that he's at the Department of Strange.
Well, it's the same company or same scientist who created the helionauts.
Oh, gotcha.
It's back at that lab with that guy who's kind of looks like, it's like if Willy Wonka was a scientist with a lot of money. That's what because he's got this coat that's like very colorful. So Jimmy gets to be him for a day. The director of the science lab.
It was Joseph in the Technicolor Dreamcoat, right?
Yes.
That's what it was. It was Technicolor. So now I'm drawing a blank. So where do we go from there?
Sure. So along the way, so he's getting a tour of the lab and all these things that they're doing, and they were pulling. One of the things the science lab was doing was going down into the reaches of the underverse, and they were pulling out something from this lab, and ended up pulling something out of the lab, which happened to be black kryptonite when Superman shows up to save the day. And we've never seen black kryptonite, what it actually does, but it's essentially turns Superman into bizarro bad Superman, which I thought was interesting.
Right. Yeah. Everybody that was like at least 1 or 2 episodes of Smallville every season. It was like, he's got the red kryptonite, and then he's all, he's being Johnny Bad Boy. But in the end of it, we do get, this was definitely a throwback. Jimmy had a watch that was indestructible. It was like he was like, is that how he calls Superman? And
that is how he contacts Superman.
When black bad guy Superman was going to laser him, he went pew, and he stopped it with his watch. I thought that was pretty sweet. But yeah, very, very kind of 50s throwback. And at the end of it, he ends up back at his apartment with LL, and wearing the coat, and he surprises her. Oh, that's right, because he was the director of this. He got them to write on the moon, "I love Lucy" or something, didn't he?
I love Lucy. Yep, that's what everybody wants to do. Allow you to write on the moon.
Lucy, you got a lot of explaining to do. All right, so issue 5 was
all about Lex Luthor.
That's right, Lex Luthor in prison. So yeah, he was on trial for what happened in the first issue and myriad other crimes that happened before that. And he's I think he tells the judge to basically go F himself, and judge is like, all right, I'm glad you said so, and so now you're going to get the electric chair. Go be on death row. So they send him to, I always love this, they send him to Stryker's Island.
Stryker's Island, yes.
Stryker's Island, because because Metropolis is not New York City. It's like,
Rikers is, the Rikers Island will sue you if you use their name in a negative light.
You'll get sued by the big prison in New York City. So Clark is there to do Lex's, final interview, and Lex manages to start a prison riot doing what he does. And he has to facilitate Clark, through there to get him to escape. All the while he's talking to him and dogging him out and trying to psych him out. And Clark has to take off his glasses a couple of times because of tear gas and stuff. And
I'm going blind. I can't see. Blind.
Exactly. Yes. Which is, I love the way this one, not to jump too far ahead, but I love the way this one ended, that they get to the bottom of this winding staircase for him to get away, and Lex makes a big deal about how he's got like this vixen, like leather clad
Natasha or something,
and she says she's 18. Like, oh, okay, did you think he was
she's the most dangerous woman in the world, or she will be?
Exactly. I get that. She's 18. She's I thought there was a little sexual overtones.
But it is kind of funny.
Very lost on Clark, who can't see anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the whole thing about this was, so regardless of their relationship, Lex, I think, I don't know, it kind of made me feel like he was trying to bring out Superman from Clark. I don't know if he truly knows that, or if he did and he was trying to draw it out. But he was constant. It was like Mr. Burns talking to Homer. Hey, Secret Friends Unite, let me tell you about Zencastr. We use them for our show, and now they're supporting us. Zencastr is now the all-in-one solution making podcasting easy. It's the ultimate web-based podcasting solution. Provides high-quality audio and video podcast production and hosting. With a full suite of professional tools, podcasters can seamlessly record, produce, and publish studio-quality content, all from one dashboard. Being a creator has never been easier. And we chose Zencastr because of the ease of use, high quality output, and it makes it super easy for our guests to come on. We had multiple solutions we tried before, and Zencastr has just been the best fit for us. Why Zencastr? It's now super easy to record a podcast with Zencastr. Log in using your browser and start recording a high-quality podcast right away. Record studio-quality sounds and up to 4K video with your guests. Feel a sense of zen knowing Zencastr's multi-layered backups ensure you always have your recordings in the highest quality, even if the connection is unstable. Have you ever worried what you sound like? Zencastr's post-production process makes you sound buttery smooth. It automatically removes those ums and ahs in your recording. It removes those awkward pauses in conversation too. Set the right podcast loudness and levels while reducing background noise with a click of a button. So if you're interested in making an easy, high-quality podcast just with the click of a browser button, go to zencastr.com/pricing and use my code SFU1. You'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. I want you to have the same easy experiences I do for all my podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story. Now back to the show. The whole time, like he was treating him like he is this, like, I am so greater than you, you boob, and basically giving him a lot of backhanded compliments, like,
you boob.
Even if you worked out a little bit, maybe you get rid of that punch and do this, and
maybe you get some chicks, or maybe Lois would, maybe Lois would dig you or something like that. So
it was a lot of great, because Clark said he was there to get his final words, but it kept on going back to why Luthor was so angry at Superman. It kind of came back. It was basically all about his inferiority towards Superman, because basically he said, if he wasn't here, I would be head dog, and I've always had to deal with that. And how does that make you feel, Kent? Like, don't you feel like Lois looks right past you towards him, and it's funny because the comments back from Clark were basically like, well, we're not in the same business. So it's very like deflected his stuff in a very funny way.
He's like, you're not talking about me. Yeah, exactly.
Lex did respect him. I felt it many times because like he
Yeah.
knows he's a good writer. He's like, you're a good writer, but you move like a slow ox or something, because he kept on tripping over things.
Right.
And it was, but one cool part, because obviously at this point Superman is just radiating energy. Parasite was the creature or bad guy that created the problem.
Right.
And just
Okay.
even being near Parasite was causing Parasite to absorb all that energy. So he ended up turning into like this. It's like when a mosquito eats too much blood and just turns into basically like a big old body and like legs. You feel bad for it, because that's kind of what happened, because Parasite was just like this unstoppable thing. But eventually Lex just decided to go ham on him, and I'm like, oh, Superman's not going to stop. I guess he's not going to stop Lex from, beating the crap out of him, but that's okay.
Wasn't Parasite in one of those Marvel DC crossovers from the 70s where it's like Superman?
Yes, it was Spider-Man and Superman.
No, it wasn't the
Parasite
first one.
was one of them. Parasite was one of the...
It was not in the classic one that I've read, but I remember one of the other covers. It was like Parasite and Doctor Doom were the two villains, and so it was Superman and the Hulk for some reason. I could be wrong. I feel like
it was Spider-Man, Superman and Spider-Man, DC Marvel present, and it was Doctor Doom and Parasite. It was something. I see the cover right now. But,
I just remember that it was the two of them. So anyway, all right, issue 6.
So last thing though, we get for issue 5. Lex does reveal that to Clark as a scoop. By the way, Superman's dying. So he's like, and he basically kind of goads him. He's like, this is a scoop. You've got it. Use it. And so, we know Lex is going to die on the chair. He basically is death. So I think in a way, Clark wants to save him. And that's part of it. He kept on saying, I know you're not a bad guy and I can do all these things. And he basically says, I don't care what you think about me. I'd rather die not letting Superman beat me. And I'd rather die that way.
Ready to having him get my goat. All right. As I was going to say, issue 6 was my favorite because I think it really set up some cool stuff that I don't feel like I've seen in other comics before. So we're in Smallville, and Clark is it's present day, but Clark is standing with Pa Kent, who you've gone from him being Kevin Costner to who the hell was he in the 78 one? Wasn't it like
not Gerald Ford? It
was Gerald Ford.
No, the Ford, not Henry Ford.
Glenn Ford.
Glenn Ford was his dad in the first one. Yeah,
and then
Tom Schneider.
Tom Schneider. Yeah, exactly. No,
it's not Tom Schneider.
It's John Snyder and Tom Wopat.
Tom Schneider was the old late night host.
I think
cigarettes on CBS.
I think Schneider got himself canceled in recent years for some stuff we don't need to talk about. So you don't see him in stuff anymore. But so he's standing in the field and he's having a chat with his dad, and it's harvesting season. No, is he having flashbacks to when he just graduated from high school? I'm starting to get mixed.
So the thing is, we don't truly remember. I don't remember. I think it was in real time. It was in normal day. Like it was happening in the events of the comic. So I think this was like real thing going on. Because yes, you talked about harvest season. These people came to help Pa Kent with
one guy's in bandages and the other guy's
like an old kind of crippled guy, and there was one guy that kind of looked like Clark Kent, but he looked a little different.
And then the third guy was a little fella, and so you just don't really know what's going on until as the plot evolves, we find out that these are, and this was teased back in the Fortress of Solitude in issue 2, I think issue 2 or 3, when he and Lois are rolling around in the fortress, that Superman has a way to communicate with his ancestors in the very distant future. And we find out through that's who these 3 dudes are. They've come back in time they're chasing one of their, future nemesis that can also travel in time. So we've got Superman from the year like 82,250 or something like that.
Yes.
You've got the guy who's wrapped up, who we don't find out who that is until the end, and then the third guy. And then again, these are all descendants of Clark Kent. The third guy is a Mr. Mitzel-Plixic guy. So somebody from the Mr. Mitzel-Plixic race hooked up with somebody from Clark's lineage, or it seemed
very odd.
Yeah.
And
But
taking on the Chronovore was the creature that they were coming to stop.
So they're doing this fight and whatever it is, and it draws them away from the farm, and they're fighting in town in Smallville. And during the course of the fight, that's when Pa Kent has his very famous heart attack and dies.
And there's a moment where it's very touching because they did not. So the intent was not to have Superman actually get involved. Mm-hmm. And the reason why they didn't want him to is because they basically said, we wanted you to have those final 3 seconds with your dad. And I'm like, we didn't tell him that, but that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
And it was great because the person that was in bandages, I won't spoil it, but there's a moment there. It's kind of a very heart-touching moment.
Yes.
So,
We'll save the surprise for that one. Yeah.
Yeah. So we got another issue with a moment with Clark and his dad. His mom was there as well, but it was more so about him and his father and their relationship. Yeah. So that's what, so that takes us through issue 6. And I hadn't read this in it's got to be 20 years. So I forgot a lot about this book, but I remember I really loved this book when I read it. And it really holds up 20 years later. And Charlie, I think because with a lot of people, you don't have to know a lot about Superman, but it touches on so many things about Superman that are like, oh, that's cool, or that's neat. That's
and
different.
I think when, nostalgia or quote unquote fan service is done the right way, it can be something great for the initiated, but it can be immaterial to someone who's just picking it up for the first time. And I know this is a recurrent theme in almost everything we read, but the art just did not work for me in this book. I mean,
I love Frank Wiley, but I get it. He's not for everybody.
He just, Clark Kent looked like he basically had like a loaf of bread for a head. It was just not a good look for him. The guy just didn't draw faces the way that I like faces. I don't know. What can I say? But anyway, so like you said, when we come back 2 weeks after basically the next episode of Spin Arc after this, we will finish this. That's the first time we've ever finished anything in 2 parts. So that's great. I'm excited about that.
Well, we normally don't cover, longer story arcs of 12 issues. It's a longer read and it's harder for people, but I think we've got one that we actually will, due to a request from Sean Nias. He wants us to read, and I said, well, he should come on the show to do this, is Secret Wars 2015, because we're going to be talking about that. So, and it's been 10 years, so I'm like, that's the perfect time. I don't remember everything.
Yeah, I was just listening to a podcast today that was talking about that, because obviously that's going to be what everybody's really feeling is the basis of the film that's going to come out next year, or excuse me, 2 years down the road. And I still have my Secret Wars Battle World map on the far wall here. So very exciting. All right. Well, that takes us through this episode. We will be back next time to talk about the rest of it. But in between, keep them spinning. Keep them spinning.
Keep on reading.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and podcast services around the galaxy, as well as video on our YouTube channel. You can support Secret Friends Unite by becoming a Patreon member, get bonus programs and more over at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. Join our Discord community for even more discussions on all things geek. For all the latest updates on Secret Friends Unite, make sure to follow us on Threads at secret.friends.unite and visit secretfriendsunite.com. Find our merchandise at TeePublic and Redbubble. Thanks for listening, and may the Force live long and prosper.